race that has everybody reminding ourselves, yes, every vote does matter. Take a look at this. State Senator Phil Berger in the race of his life right now, currently trailing 2 votes. Yes, you heard me right. 2 votes. This is up in his district up in Rockingham County and Guilford County. He's been the Senate leader in North Carolina for about 15 years, arguably the most powerful man in the state of North Carolina, now losing by those 2 points, 2 votes, likely to go to some sort of recount. Let's go ahead and bring in Dr. Michael Bitzer. He's professor of politics at Catawba College. Professor, good morning. I know it was a late night for you. So what happens next in this Phil Berger, Sam Page race? I mean, there's still military votes, I believe, that need to be counted. I think there's provisional votes that need to be counted. With a 2-vote disparity, this could really still go either way.
It certainly could. And you're right. The military votes are still coming in. They may come in actually through March 12th. That's federal law. Then you have the issue of perhaps some mail-in ballots needing to be cured, needing to be counted ultimately. All of those provisional ballots that are outstanding potentially in that district. So there's a lot that has to be done, and then you have the legal challenges. You have the potential recounts. So this race is nowhere near decided, but certainly the 2 votes, I don't think anybody in North Carolina would have predicted this, but this is the kind of dynamic we have seen in this race.
Again, as you said, this is still incredibly early, too early to call. What does this mean, though, for Phil Berger? As Ben said, arguably the most powerful man in North Carolina when it comes to the politics here in the state. Even with it being this close, what does this mean for the Berger campaign?
I think certainly for the past 15 years, North Carolina has been reshaped by Phil Berger and his operations in terms of political strategy. And I think what this means for North Carolina, certainly if Phil Berger ultimately loses this race, there will be a fight to become the Senate leader, the president pro tem position that Phil Berger has held for the past 15 years. We could see some potential movement on the budget for the state of North Carolina. There's going to be a fundamental reshaping of North Carolina politics if Phil Berger actually loses this race, and it's a new day in terms of the state's politics.
I always tell people Phil Berger might not be a household name for some folks, but
right.
But in the state of North Carolina, he's more powerful than the governor.
Yes.
Our governor does not have the powers that Phil Berger does, just by the way our state is set up. All right, let's talk the U.S. Senate race. No big surprise about who won, but you say the surprise is who voted. More than 200,000 people voted in the Democratic primary, even though it wasn't expected to be a competitive race, the Republican more so. What does that tell you?
I think that tells me that there is certainly a level of energy and enthusiasm on the Democratic side that we've been seeing in terms of public opinion polling, but we wanted actual numbers. We wanted to see who is showing up. And you're right, the Democratic U.S. Senate coronation, really, of Roy Cooper seems to indicate that there are a lot of people energized, a lot of people wanted to participate in the Democratic primary, even though there was really nothing statewide drawing them to that race. The race was actually on the Republican side. But to see that 200,000 vote imbalance really sends a signal to me that this is something to watch over the next 8 months as we lead into the general campaign of Democratic energy, Democratic enthusiasm. Does that then translate to a Democratic wave potential going into the fall? We'll have to watch all this closely, but this is a sign that we need to start paying attention to these dynamics.
I can only imagine how expensive this race is. I mean, our heads will be blown when we think about the amount of money that will be spent. Professor Bitzer, let's talk about the Carla Cunningham defeat. Any surprises to you there?
I think the biggest surprise was the absolute blowout in terms of the percentages. And what this really says to me is that not only are the voters party loyalists now, but the parties are expecting their elected representatives to be party loyalists, to be allegiance to the party. And when you buck the party can kick back. I think we saw that with all three Democrats who were siding with Republicans on gubernatorial vetoes. There was one Democrat who was trying to make a comeback who bucked his party 2 years ago. He got defeated as well. So we have sorted our political parties. We have sorted as voters into like-minded communities. And I think that the intensity of the polarization and division in the state is only going to get more extreme.
It's almost like the voters don't want you working across the aisle.
Oh, no.
and don't want you compromising whether you're Republican or Democrat, or else you'll get penalized. So we talked about Democrats. They're energized in this primary. The question is, that going to last 9 months? And is that going to impact the November election? What do you think?
I think certainly it will last. We have to wait and see what the numbers and the feeling in terms of public opinion polling is going to show us over the next several months. But we'll have a good idea in terms of things like the generic ballot. Are you going to vote Democratic or are you going to vote Republican? And that gap between the Democrats and the Republicans are going to be what folks like myself are going to be watching very closely. I think the intensity is going to be there. The Trump administration is going to be the primary target of that energy and enthusiasm. If the economy continues to be forefront, that double whammy is really setting us up for a midterm unlike any other in terms of the magnitude that we might be seeing.
We focus primarily on the Democrats and the Republicans, but we know that they're the independents and they're those other party affiliates, smaller parties here in North Carolina. What will be the push to get them to go one way or another come November?
Well, the great mass of unaffiliated voters is the largest percentage within the 7.6 million registered voters of North Carolina, but they are not political independents. They tend to lean to one party over the other. North Carolina's swing voters, folks who bounce down the ballot, who are the persuadable voters, is an ever shrinking pool of voters. And so certainly I think that this year it's going to be the strategy of energizing and elevating your party base. Try to get some of those folks who are persuadable to your side, but that's not going to take a whole lot of effort because midterms are typically go against the president's party.
And I think I read on your blog, tell me if I'm making this up because I might be confusing it, but you should check out his blog. I think I read on your blog that in the primary, at least, those unaffiliated tended to break with Democrats at a far higher number.
At least in the early votes. We don't have election day data yet, but my suspicion is that indeed those folks who are registered unaffiliated who voted yesterday probably went much more Democratic, like the overall dynamic. And that indicates to me that's where the independents, so-called, are going to go potentially in November. We'll just have to wait and see the trend lines as we lead up to November's general election.
Considering their numbers, that can be huge.
I was going to say, because when you think about the turnout,
so
like
many
that
of
could
them.
be,
Yeah.
if that was any indication.
All right, Michael Bitzer, Catawba College, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
On this morning after and drinking a couple extra cups of tea and coffee. We know it was a late night. Thank you as always.
My pleasure.